Childhood is meant to be a time of safety, warmth, and discovery. Yet for many, it is a time of hidden wounds that silently shape who they become. Every touch, every word, every betrayal or neglect leaves traces in the mind, traces that may remain long after the events are forgotten. Sexual desire, an experience most consider natural and instinctive, is not immune to these invisible scars. Some adults find themselves drawn to intimacy, craving connection and pleasure, while others feel blocked, anxious, or even repelled by sexual experiences. Why does this happen? How can memories from years ago, sometimes ones we cannot fully recall, control our bodies and minds today? Freud suggested that early experiences leave lasting imprints on our subconscious, shaping desires and fears alike. Jung believed that unhealed wounds from childhood create shadows that influence our relationships and emotional life. This journey is not meant to shame or blame. It is meant to reveal, understand, and empower. Today, we will explore the dark yet fascinating connection between childhood trauma and adult sexual desire, and discover how understanding it can lead to healing and self-awareness. If you are ready to uncover the hidden patterns shaping your desires, stay until the end. Childhood is often thought of as a simple time of innocence, yet for many, it is a hidden battlefield. Every rejection, every harsh word, every moment of neglect becomes a shadow that follows silently into adulthood. These shadows do not announce themselves. They do not scream. They exist quietly, shaping the way a person experiences desire, intimacy, and connection. When a child is told, through words or actions, that their body is unsafe, that affection is conditional, or that their emotions are wrong, the mind learns to protect itself. This protective wiring becomes so ingrained that, decades later, the adult may feel a disconnect from their own sexual feelings. They may find intimacy confusing, frightening, or even repulsive. They may crave closeness yet recoil when it arrives. The subconscious does not distinguish between danger in childhood and danger in adulthood. If a touch was once paired with fear, the body may still respond to pleasure with tension or shame. This is not weakness, it is survival. Neuroscience shows that early trauma alters the brain's wiring, particularly in areas responsible for emotional regulation, stress response, and reward. The amygdala, the brain's fear center, becomes hyperactive, while the prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational decision-making, struggles to calm these responses. Sexual desire is not purely physical, it is deeply emotional and psychological. When fear and tension dominate, desire is altered, suppressed, or expressed in ways that may feel confusing or destructive. Even small, seemingly insignificant experiences, like a parent's cold touch or a sibling's mocking, can accumulate into a pattern of mistrust toward one's own body or toward intimacy. Childhood trauma does not always create obvious symptoms. Often, it whispers in small ways, a hesitation, a fear of closeness, a fleeting shame during moments of pleasure. People may not understand why they feel drawn to certain relationships or why they struggle to enjoy intimacy. The answers often lie in the shadows of the past. Understanding this is the first step toward awareness. Recognizing that a struggle with sexual desire may not be personal failure, but the echo of childhood experiences, allows a person to approach themselves with curiosity instead of judgment. Healing begins when one can identify the hidden influence of early experiences and see that desire, intimacy, and connection are not lost, only blocked. Only then can a person begin to reclaim what was always theirs to experience: pleasure, closeness, an authentic connection with themselves and others. Attachment is the invisible thread that connects a child to their caregivers, and it shapes the way every human experiences intimacy later in life. When that thread is strong, consistent, and nurturing, the child learns to trust, to seek comfort, and to explore desire safely. When it is weak, inconsistent, or broken, the consequences can echo into adulthood in profound ways. Children who experience neglect, emotional unavailability, or unpredictable caregiving often develop insecure attachment patterns. Some become anxious, constantly seeking reassurance and closeness but never feeling truly safe. Others withdraw, avoiding intimacy entirely, building invisible walls around their desires. These patterns are not choices, they are survival strategies created in the brain. The same neural pathways that once helped a child cope with fear now influence adult sexual behavior. A person with anxious attachment may feel intense desire, but it is often tangled with fear of rejection. They may enter relationships with urgency and intensity, confusing emotional hunger with sexual attraction. A person with avoidant attachment may feel sexual arousal, but a deeper need for connection triggers discomfort. They may push partners away or detach emotionally, leaving desire feeling mechanical or hollow. Case studies of survivors of childhood trauma reveal a common thread. The mind often rewrites desire to match learned expectations. If love was conditional or unsafe in childhood, desire becomes conditional or unsafe in adulthood. Even when a partner is kind, attentive, and trustworthy, the subconscious anticipates betrayal or harm. This is why adults who experienced early trauma sometimes enter cycles of relationships that replicate the dynamics they once feared or endured. It is not a conscious choice, it is a brain wired to survive by anticipating danger. Psychologists have observed that insecure attachment can distort the natural flow of sexual energy, making pleasure intertwined with anxiety, guilt, or shame. Even masturbation, a private act of exploration, can be influenced by these invisible rules learned long ago. Understanding attachment patterns allows adults to see that their struggles with intimacy are not evidence of failure. They are evidence of adaptation, of resilience, of survival. By identifying how childhood attachment shaped the mind and body, a person can begin to separate fear from desire, safety from threat, and past from present. Therapy, self-reflection, and mindful exploration of relationships provide opportunities to rewire the brain, to build trust slowly, and to experience desire without fear. It is not an instant process, nor is it simple, but it is possible. Recognizing that attachment wounds are behind difficulties with sexual desire gives power. It shifts responsibility from self-blame to understanding, from shame to awareness. Desire is not lost. It is waiting, often buried under layers of learned fear, ready to emerge when the mind and body feel safe enough to reclaim it. Fear and shame are silent architects of desire. They do not appear as obvious obstacles, but they shape every reaction, every sensation, and every thought about intimacy. Childhood trauma often programs the mind to associate pleasure with risk, and the body responds with tension, hesitation, or avoidance. A child who was shamed for expressing curiosity about their own body, or punished for seeking closeness, learns to hide their desires. This hidden pattern often carries into adulthood. Sexual desire becomes entangled with guilt, embarrassment, or fear of judgment. The nervous system, conditioned to expect harm, triggers stress responses even in safe contexts. For example, a simple touch that should feel comforting may evoke anxiety, because the subconscious remembers danger instead of warmth. The psychology behind this is rooted in survival. Shame is the mind's way of saying, "I cannot trust this," while fear says, "This might hurt me." Together, they form a barrier between natural desire and conscious experience. Adults may notice strange patterns, desire appearing in contexts of secrecy, danger, or rebellion, but disappearing in healthy, loving environments. Some find themselves drawn to partners who replicate childhood dynamics, even unconsciously, because familiar patterns feel safer than unfamiliar safety. Freud argued that these unconscious drives often manifest in ways that confuse the conscious mind, explaining why some feel desire in situations they consciously reject. Jung would describe this as the shadow influencing the visible life, the hidden part of the psyche seeking expression. Even when a person knows intellectually that they are safe, the body can react differently. Heart rate increases, muscles tense, and arousal can be suppressed. Shame may cause self-criticism or avoidance, turning what should be pleasure into punishment. This is why addressing fear and shame is essential to understanding sexual desire. It is not enough to desire, one must also feel safe enough to experience it. Practical approaches, such as slow, mindful exploration of the body, communicating boundaries with partners, or revisiting memories with therapeutic support, help disentangle fear from desire. It is important to remember that these reactions are not personal failings. They are echoes of a time when the body and mind had to protect themselves. Recognizing these patterns giving them a name, and approaching them with compassion allows the mind to separate past trauma from present experience. When fear and shame are acknowledged and gently challenged, desire can emerge in its natural form. Pleasure becomes not a source of anxiety, but a reflection of safety, curiosity, and self-acceptance. Understanding this connection is a step toward reclaiming what was obscured by the past. The mind can learn, slowly, to associate intimacy with safety, to experience arousal without guilt, and to allow desire to flow naturally, unblocked by shadows of childhood. Human beings have a strange and often disturbing tendency to repeat the past, even when it causes pain. Psychologists call this repetition compulsion. When childhood experiences are traumatic, the mind unconsciously seeks to recreate similar dynamics in adulthood, hoping to gain control or resolve unfinished emotions. This process is rarely conscious. People may enter relationships that mirror early experiences of neglect, rejection, or emotional unavailability. They may feel drawn to partners who trigger familiar fears or repeat patterns of harm, even if these relationships bring discomfort or suffering. Sexual desire becomes intertwined with these cycles, creating confusion. Pleasure may appear only in situations that replicate the old dynamics, while intimacy in safe, nurturing contexts may feel unfamiliar or unearned. Freud believed that the unconscious mind drives this compulsion to repeat, as it seeks to resolve unresolved conflicts. Jung would describe it as the shadow-seeking expression, pushing the person to face hidden wounds through lived experience. Case studies reveal striking examples. Adults who experienced inconsistent attention as children may unconsciously choose partners who alternate between affection and distance, recreating the emotional unpredictability of their early environment. Others who experienced emotional or physical boundaries being violated may find themselves drawn to relationships that test limits, replaying scenarios that were once threatening. The patterns are not signs of weakness or poor judgment, they are survival strategies from a time when the mind had no other tools. Awareness is the key to breaking the cycle. Understanding that the dynamics one experiences in adult relationships may be echoes of childhood allows a person to pause, reflect, and choose differently. Mindfulness, therapy, and honest self-reflection help identify triggers, recognize patterns, and create healthier responses. Repetition compulsion also affects the body. The nervous system remembers old tension and stress, activating the same responses even when the context is safe. Sexual desire, intimately connected to the body, is shaped by these responses. Recognizing this allows a person to disentangle past trauma from present experiences. Desire does not have to follow the patterns of childhood. It can be explored consciously, with boundaries, safety, and intention. Healing is not about forgetting or erasing the past, it is about understanding its influence and reclaiming choice. When one becomes aware of repetition compulsion, the power shifts. No longer driven unconsciously by old trauma, the mind and body can engage in intimacy that feels safe, genuine, and pleasurable. Desire becomes not a source of confusion or anxiety, but a conscious expression of connection, curiosity, and self-awareness. The patterns of the past can be broken, one choice at a time, and with each step, the shadow of childhood loses its grip on adult sexual experience. Healing from the shadows of childhood is not instant, nor is it simple. It requires patience, self-compassion, and a willingness to face the patterns that have shaped desire and intimacy. The first step is awareness. Recognizing that struggles with sexual desire may stem from early trauma, attachment issues, fear, or shame allows the mind to shift from blame to understanding. This awareness opens the door to change. Practical steps involve creating a safe environment for exploration. Mindful attention to one's own body, observing sensations, acknowledging emotions, and allowing curiosity without judgment, helps re-establish trust between mind and body. Therapy can be a powerful tool, providing guidance to process unresolved trauma, reframe memories, and learn new ways of relating to oneself and others. It allows the adult to rewire the neural pathways that once linked pleasure with fear. Communication is another crucial element. Expressing needs, boundaries, and fears to partners builds safety, which in turn allows desire to flow naturally. Safe intimacy reinforces new patterns in the nervous system, gradually replacing old tension and anxiety with trust and comfort. Self-compassion plays a profound role. Many adults carry unconscious guilt or shame for desiring pleasure or for struggling with intimacy. Understanding that these reactions are survival mechanisms, not personal failures, dissolves the burden of self-blame. Journaling, meditation, or reflective exercises help make the unconscious conscious, giving voice to emotions that were once suppressed. Reclaiming desire is also about creating experiences that contrast with the old patterns. Engaging in relationships where respect, consent, and emotional presence exist consistently teaches the body and mind that pleasure does not require risk or punishment. Gradually, the subconscious begins to recalibrate, allowing desire to feel authentic rather than conflicted. Healing is rarely linear. There will be moments of doubt, anxiety, or even regression. These are not signs of failure, but of progress. Each step, no matter how small, strengthens the connection between mind, body, and desire. Over time, the echoes of childhood trauma lose their grip, and sexual desire emerges as a reflection of self-awareness, safety, and emotional freedom. It becomes not a source of shame or fear, but a natural, integral part of life. The journey is deeply personal, yet universally human. Every person has the capacity to reclaim what was once obscured by past experiences. By facing the shadows, understanding the influence of attachment, trauma, fear, and repetition, and practicing compassion and mindful exploration, adults can experience intimacy and desire fully. The past may have shaped us, but it does not have to define us. Desire, when approached with awareness and care, can transform from a confusing, conflicted force into a source of connection, pleasure, and self-understanding. Healing allows the body and mind to finally experience what was always meant to exist: authentic, unblocked, and fulfilling desire.